Time is it? I wonder if my students are up working. I wonder if they're going to be ready for class. I wonder if they did the thing I asked them to do. I wonder if they're going to show up for class tomorrow. And if they do, I wonder if they're going to have anything to say. I wonder a lot of things. Oh, it's too early. I'm going back to bed.
Hi, I'm David Keindel. I teach in the culinary programs here at Algonquin College. So I'm here just to talk about a little bit about encouraging participation in class and possibly self-assessment. So let's get started. I'm going to share a screen with you. So it's 4 a.m. and we're wondering if the students are ready, and are we ready for class? What are the challenges that face us as professors trying to be prepared for class and get things ready? How do we encourage students to attend, first of all? How do we prepare them to contribute and feel comfortable doing that? How do we get them to activate the learning instead of just sitting in class and listening to me? How do we prepare them to contribute? Some people are uncomfortable talking at the last, just on the spur of the moment. How do I increase or improve the consistency of the submissions that the students make? How do I just ensure that they're ready? How do I manage the workflow and then the grading that goes along with that? How do I cope with that? And how do I plan this formative assessment, doing things to check the process of students as they proceed? But learners have challenges too, as in addition to that. So how do we help them get the work completed and schedule their time so they're getting work done rather than waiting till the 11th hour so they're prepared for class? We want them to have ownership. They've got challenges with ownership of their course performance, being confident. Some of them are not that comfortable sharing in class. We want them to feel prepared for that, and we want to give them timely feedback. Students are concerned about high-risk activities, and there's real anxiety in the class for them. They also want to know how they're doing in class. They want regular assessments. And sometimes they're unclear about what the expectations are. So what are the obstacles to the participation in class if we really think about it? This sociologist, Jay Howard, suggests that there's two sort of normal behaviors, norms that control what we do or what our students do in class. One is the civil attention, the belief, I guess, the norm that if the students just pay attention or polite, nod, smile at us, that they probably won't get called on to participate in class. And then there's that other group, there's that consolidation where there's a small group that does all the speaking for the class, and that lets the rest of the class sit back and feel comfortable. It also gives the teacher a sense that, oh, that was a good class. I had good discussion. Well, you really only had discussion with just a few participants. So what Jay Howard is suggesting that being aware of this, our responsive is also to break those norms or fracture those norms and do something to control or change the contribution that the students make in the classroom. So I'm suggesting that there's perhaps something we can do by the way we structure our assignments. So we'll take a look at a sample in one of my break-based courses. But the premise is that we prepare or ask the students to prepare something for class, and they're expected to deliver that or submit it midnight before the day of class. If our class is on a Monday, Sunday midnight, it must be submitted. The instructions have to be clear. They have to know what they're doing so that they meet our expectations. The way we deliver it, or the format that we present that each week, should be consistent. We can vary the activities. It could be a quiz one week, could be a reading and assignment the week after, it could be a research activity, could be mathematical calculation. That's fine, but the expectation is that there's an expectation of what the contents will be. So we've laid it out for them very clearly, and it's due by midnight. And the other thing that's important, I think, is we explain that rationale when we introduce the assignment to the students, explain why we're doing it, what the purpose of it is. You may want to provide a rubric as well so they can have a checklist to compare their work with what we think is expected. But the critical thing is it's due midnight before class, and there's a reason for that. So in this class, I have a list of activities, and the first thing, this is for week 1 of this class, I want them to understand the resources. So there's a few two textbooks they have for this course. So I provided them with a simple assignment, and again, the instructions are here that it must be submitted. We talk about in class, it must be submitted midnight before class. What the assignment looks like is something like this. So I include an honor system or a code in the beginning, and everybody's aware then that they're not allowed to plagiarize. It's a very simple standard Word document, and they're expected to fill in the shaded area. So in this case, they're asked to read a section of the book, and in their own words, it's not a scavenger hunt. In their own words, I want them to express what they think of, in this case, what a chef is after the assignment's complete. Another example would be week 2, where we've got an assignment that's due. In this case, they have 2 things to do. One is they have a short quiz on Brightspace to do. And the second part is they have an assignment that, again, provided them a form with, and I want them to complete it and submit it into Brightspace so I know it's done. And then I also want them to bring a copy to class, whether it's a Zoom class or a remote learning class or in person. They're going to bring that with them to class. So the expectation that it was submitted before midnight. How does that help the professor prepare for class? Well, that gives us time, rather than panicking early in the morning or wondering in the evening whether the students are prepared for class. It allows us to get up early in the morning, or as time suits us before class, to review the work that they've submitted. We can confirm their level of comprehension by the results, the quality of their assignments. We could look for examples within the submissions for things that we could prepare in class, or invite some of the students to share their work with now that they have some confidence. We could look for common threads or issues, misunderstandings that we may have to revisit or reteach in class. We could use this as a springboard, this points within this, to look for, create a spot for us to launch a discussion in class. We can create a poll, again, to use that as a confirmation of understanding. But we also then have an ability to look at the results and communicate privately after class with certain individuals to see if they've had some difficulty. So we're looking at the workload for this. So now we're creating an assignment that's being delivered each night by all the students, and that we're going to review in class the next day. Seems like a lot of work. So my next part of this presentation is to suggest that we look at self-assessment. Rather than the students submitting all the work and we get this deluge of assignments to review and grade, why don't we take the time in class to review the assignment and let them self-assess? So is self-assessment a good thing? There's a lot of research out there and some conflicting reports, but generally it's perceived that this activity of reviewing one's own work or your peers is actually a very powerful way to continue the learning. So the grading or the assessment process is actually a learning activity as well as just a grading process. So there's lots of benefits to the process, and it seems to be a very positive thing that students enjoy doing but are uncomfortable with. So how do we allow them or support them in their self-grading? I think it's important to provide them with some format or some scheme, some tools to help them. In this case, I'm suggesting that the students must, we're not doing this to create a grade to put into gradebook, simply put in gradebook. We're actually doing this as a learning activity, and we're doing it to encourage the students to participate, complete the work, come to class prepared, and also engage in that learning activity where we correct or self-assess and review the work together. So the intention is that the students will submit before midnight, before class. So that's the first step they must do. If they come to class the next day, they're expected to bring the work with them so we can grade it together. They'll go through this grading scheme and submit the work back to me. If they attend class but did not submit the night before, they don't get a mark, but they still participate in the class activity. Conversely, if they submitted it last night but didn't attend class, they don't get the mark either. They have to fulfill all 3 duties, because it's not a mark for, we're not trying to find out what they did wrong. We're trying to find out their level of understanding. It's a formative process. So the students submit the work. In the morning I get up, I can review the submissions to see what level they're at and have confidence that we're prepared for class. In class, we take some time, we review the material, correct it together. The students are allowed to grade themselves and make corrections, adjustments, ask questions. And once that's complete, they make sure their name is on their material. They grade themselves out of 10. They take a photograph with their phone, and then they upload it into Brightspace. So how do they grade themselves? The grading system I use is if they did those things, if they did it, submitted it, and attended class, and they're going through the process with me, then they absolutely deserve 5 out of 10, even if they got every item wrong. They made the attempt. Part of learning is making mistakes, so they shouldn't be penalized because they got things wrong. We're in the process of helping them understand. The students will say, I got a lot of them wrong. What do I grade myself at? Well, I would say between 5 and 7. If you now have corrected your mistakes, you see where you went wrong, you understand the material better now, you still may need to spend some time reviewing, then I think you deserve between 5 and 7. If you've got some minor errors, and you've made those corrections and you're quite comfortable with it, you've got a grasp on it now after we've reviewed it, then you deserve between 7 or 7.5 and 9 or 9.5. If you are comfortable, you had virtually no mistakes, even if you made a few small ones, virtually no mistakes, and you're able to teach another student, then you definitely deserve between 9.5 and 10. So I expect the students then to make corrections, make sure their name is on it, grade themselves at a 10, take their smartphone, take a picture of it, and upload it before the end of class. We'll take a short break and they can do that. Then after class, I have the material prepared that I can review. So what do? After class, I open a gradebook. Their first assignment was there with the errors, if there were any, and their second assignment they took with their smartphone with their self-assessment is there, and I can compare the two if I wish to. And normally I take a quick scan, but the self-assessment model seems to be working quite well in my opinion. What did the students say? Last week I have 4 different classes, 2 in level 2 and 2 in level 3. And I took this quick poll, and I've been doing this process all semester with the students. The big result is that the request or expectation that they'll submit their work before midnight is pretty much universally being accepted. Not everybody's happy with it, but they're doing it. They seem to understand the reason, the rationale for it. When it comes to self-assessment, there's a little difficulty there. It's not that they don't accept it. Many of them feel they're unprepared or not comfortable grading themselves or assessing themselves. So that's the part where we have to, I think, have to work on to make them comfortable, make sure there's clear expectations. Some examples, one of the things I often do is if they say to me, I really can't, I'm uncomfortable grading myself, I say to them, think that this assignment was a good friend of yours or one of your classmates. How would you think of it? It's their work, and consider how you would grade them and grade yourself fairly. And I remind them, I'm not trying to find out how many things they got wrong. That's not what this is about. What I'm trying to determine is what's your level of comfort, confidence, and understanding, comprehension of the material. So I don't want to know how many got wrong. I want to know currently, as of the end of this class, this exercise, what's your level of understanding? From there, we can proceed to the next activity. Or if there's a gap, we need to revisit that and perhaps spend some more time on it. So I leave you with this classic TED Talk, which always makes me laugh, about what happens at 4 o'clock in the morning, and not really the time you want to be thinking about class. You want that set up and planned both for you and for the students. All right, thank you for joining me, and appreciate your time. I hope that this helps you and helps your students with participation.